this meeting. Just remind everyone to turn off their phones, the sound. I'd like to also welcome anyone who's online, but there's no one online today. Maybe there's some people coming, and we also have some people here in the public gallery. We have a couple of deputations this morning. But first of all, I'm going to open our meeting with the Karakia, and we have Max Matenga in our chambers today, who is here for Eastwoodhill Deputation as part of that, and he is going to open our meeting with the Karakia this morning.
Tamari e hikama. Mua I te Karakia, whai whakaro ki a rātou kua riro. Tēnei ata tai mai ai te kōrero, kua tangi te pere ki whāngā rā, te whānau Love. Whai whakaro ana ki te rao ngā papa John Love. Ilo ki te pō, ti rā. Whānau tamatea, I noho taumaha I tēnei wiki. Nō reira, whai whakaro ana ki a rātou kua riro. Just want to acknowledge that this morning we learnt of the passing of a great man from Whangara, great community figure, John Love. So just like to acknowledge Uncle John, and also the tamatea whānau who sadly lost a loved one who was buried yesterday. So quite lovely to be back in your presence again, everyone. I know it's only been a week, I kind of feel like a part of the furniture. Last week was a foot in the door, and today's the whole body. So, thank you. So just, I'll open up our hui this morning with our karaki, and then I'll kindly hand it back. Nā reira, kia karaki tātou. Wairea, ta wairea, tai wairea, te one tapu. Hūrā kino me turaki atu ki tai haruru, ka hūrā matarehu me turaki atu ki tai hauranga. Nei anō ki rā te hara nui ka tau mai nei, te nei rā taku kupu ora te waha kenei. Kupu matarehu I tau ki runga I te kauni he raka wete kina, te utanga tūrei kukura kata tū ki runga I te koro matua ka tineia. Tenei te Mauri nui, te Mauri ngāhua, o te whānau ka rukuti ia. Rukuti a te tāhunui a rangi, rukuti a te tuanui a papa, rukuti a ngā pātu iri ngā kōrero a tāne, rukuti a te rāwhiti o Tangaro. Rukuti a ngā whakaiho o te pōārangi atu ngā kino o te rangi o te whenua o ngā wai kia kaua e whai wāhi mai ki tēnei hui. E tō e te pō nau mai ko te ao. Mahuru te ao, mahuru te noho. Tenei te Mauri o te kaunihera te whakapihi. Tenei te mana o te kaunihera te whakakake. I hara mai rā I mātua Māori tēnei te Mauri o Nauri. He Mauri kāputa ki te whai ao, ki te ao marama. Rai nia hau turuturu o whiti whakamaua, te Mauri kia tina. Hui e, hui e.
Thank you. Thanks for that. We'll just start our meeting with a couple of admin things, and then we'll move into our deputations. The first thing on the agenda is the apologies. I have an apology from our Mayor, Rickett Stoltz, from Jeremy Muir, and from Rob Telfer for lateness. And also, Aubrey Ria is just getting her computer looked at. Is there any other apologies?
Was Rowenia apology?
Yes.
She was really.
She was, yeah.
She's got another engagement.
So Rowenia is also an apology. Okay, could someone move those? Thank you, Councillor Borish, and seconded by Councillor Tupara. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Moved. Now, the second thing on this is declarations of interest.
Yeah, I've got a declaration of property in the CBD and interest in a business in the CBD.
Thank you for that.
The TRI does come up, so I'm associated with the TRI.
Thank you. CBD. Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll move on to the confirmation of non-confidential minutes. Everybody's had those for a few weeks. Sam, thank you, Councillor Gibson, for moving, seconded by Councillor Costa. All in favour? Against? Passed. And then do we have non-confidential minutes? I don't think so. Okay, the government's work plan is there for everyone to see what we're doing today and what's coming up. Is there any questions around that? Nothing? And there's no leaves of absence, no any acknowledgements and tributes. And so now we're into our public input and petitions, and first of all I will call up Tim Williams, who's going to talk to us this morning about roadside drainage. You can either stand up or sit down. Okay. Yeah.
She reckons she's going to point there.
Yeah, you can see it on here or up there. And so you've got about 10 minutes, and then if you leave a couple of minutes for questions at the end, that would be great, and I'll leave it with you.
Okay, right. Well, I'm Tim Williams. I really need this sort of like a hole in the head here. My age is sort of I used to be able to do this, but now it's a bit more scary than what it used to be. Anyway, so I farmed at Muriwai. I farmed from Waikura Valley down to Wairua, quite big time. I've done some development, I've led some community initiatives, and I've been doing that over the last 55 years. Probably spent about 3 or 4 years of my time doing stuff for other people for sheep. Anyway, I'm here just to sort of talk a bit about how Gabriel affected me at Manatuki, and about I'm actually asking the GDC for help to try and actually get the job done that they've been trying to do for 3 years, and also ask for help for the council to be a bit more responsible in spending money, spending it more efficiently and a bit more responsibly. So here we are, this is the orchard at Maunga. It goes the whole way up there, and so the GDC is really going to pay for efficient, professional and jobs done to spec. Most of the contractors, what did we just say, up here is the Tiara River, and here's the Waineki Road, and all up there was flooded on me, and all up here was flooded too in Gabriel and lasted. So Fulton Hogan's always been the contractor on both sides of it, and after Gabriel, my first contact was with the GDC, and their comment was I wanted to dig some drains out, some culverts out, and they said don't touch anything to do with the roads is our area, leave it. Okay, and it was always impossible to meet GDC and Fulton Hogan at the same time. You could never do it, whether they engineered it or not, but it was just a hopeless case. So I'm going to show you some examples of how the school spent $500,000 trying to redrain it when it couldn't be redrained because the drains are too blooming high. I lost $400,000 in the orchard, and the GDC have paid for about $65,000 of work done that hasn't achieved a blooming thing. So you paid about 10 times, 3 more times, 3 more jobs have been booked, and you're probably about, in total, Fulton Hogan and everything, about 80 trips out here to try and sort it out. This is just the contours of there. Here's the school, which is very low. It's probably lower than over there, but it drains over there. There's a Tiara River in the Waineki. And these contours show here, and the water from here, this bit here that are all flooded, comes out and down here into the Karakia River. So that's let's show the flooding orchard. And when it floods, when there's a lot of rain, a lot of these houses here, the sewer doesn't work. There's no drainage. It's just thanks. Next one. I'm going to keep going. I want to be penalised. This here is just work done before Gabriel. It was Fulton Hogan cleaned the trees off there. They removed the stumps and didn't really poison the job properly, so they've had to go through 3 times since and spray regrowth. I did a kilometre at Willows Road on the old riverbed there of trees, poisoned them as they've done, not one's grown, so it can be done. There was a big pile of all the tops were put in a pile there. 5 men came out, 2 trips, 100 litres of diesel, tried to burn it. Well, you can't burn big logs like that, you've got to get a fire going. Then they came out 3 months later and did the same thing, never worked. A week later, a digger came out and buried it. All just unnecessary stuff because nobody's yet organised. The fence is actually, this is a Gabriel dog, a rata thing. They fixed the fence, there's absolutely no idea how to do it. This here is what they call stainless steel wire, for $30 a kilo. They used that there and all on other bits of the fence. They used this wire, probably, I don't know, $300 or $400 worth of wire they used when it would have been $70 of 12.5 gauge wire. They're just, nobody is controlled, it's just do it. They came to do breastwork here. The river's eating into my place there. They came to do the breastwork and there were about 10 trips up with GDC people saying, oh yeah, we've got to put breastwork there. They were never going to do it, so we said, we'll plant some trees. So they planted trees along here. And I said, but that's where the problem is. Oh, we don't want to go there. So I said, well, send me the trees. I planted it with my men. And this is just another one just showing the contours a bit, the school's here. And here's the outlet from all the stuff that flooded. That's all flooded, you'll see shortly. This all flooded here. And the school kind of is just floating. Next one. So this is just simplifying the thing. The main culvert is culvert B here. That's the problem. That's why all that flooded. It's 500 below, about 500 millimetres below here. GDC there were some people going up and checking all the culverts. I said, you've got that one there, haven't you, to them? Oh, no, yeah, we have now, yeah, okay. This has all been surveyed by Fulton Hogan. Obviously, GDC would have paid for it. They've been blown out, all cleaned out, and they were cleaning out here, and I said, have you done this one down here? Oh, they didn't know anything about that. Oh, they went down there and cleaned that out. There have been many visits with GDC and Fulton Hogan looking at that. Looking at all these culverts here, this is the school, this culvert, and there's another culvert down the other end that's higher. And they've been, as I say, and then a lady the other day from the council rang up and said, hey, what's all these letters and all this problem with these culverts? What's the number of them? I said, they haven't got a number. She said, oh. Nobody's actually sort of worked out that there's a culvert there, even though it's probably on the old catchment board schemes. This is just another one, just reminding you that the water, there is this thing here. This is a photo of my orchard. I've got 2 hectares that were completely demolished like that. Here's a ponding water in the middle. And I lost $400,000, that's cash. Top of the line, $400,000 because of this, because of blocked culverts. End of subject. I've shown the breakdown of my losses to GDC staff. You know, it's just a number to people. It doesn't sort of affect their back pocket, it affected mine. And I'm still trying to get the production back. Nothing has changed. Right, this is in Willows Road. This is a block, another person and I have here where we've put in these new Eclipse avocados. And the neighbour, for some reason, has blocked the natural flow of water, and we can't work out. We've asked and asked and asked. We can't work out why he's blocked it. He just blocks it. So with Mangola from GDC helped us with our lawyer's letter, said, you're at the right. They've got to unblock the drain or stop blocking it. Anyway, we sent her, she helped us with a letter of support for our lawyer saying, if you block the culvert or restrict the natural flow of water down and you cause damage to the uphill side, you're to blame. The person who restricts the water going. This is my issue with GDC at Manatuki. Right, this is the 3rd attempt they've done here. Until they did this, there were trees growing in here. Nobody's ever thought about this being blocked. Nobody's ever thought about it. This is down from the school. Okay, this blocks the school, this blocks the bottom area of my land. So they've cleaned it up. This here is still 500 higher than the water. Here's the water going up here, this water, so before the drain's actually going, the water's up here. Goes, blocks all the way up there. The school outlet is here, comes through here. It's always underwater. So all the $500,000 that the school has spent, Education Board has said, is still waste of money because it can't get away. So the top coal, anyway, that's, I think we've got, but also, all this was surveyed. It was all surveyed by Fulton Hogan. They've got it, but nobody would use a laser. Nobody would do anything like that. They knew iometer or whatever it is. So anyway, that's, we've got the gist of that. Anybody all got the gist of that? Right, this is the same thing, looking from the school. That school's over here. Here's the culvert here. Here's the bit that was dug out. Now, the school contractor, everybody that comes there, whether it's GDC thing, I always give them bags of oranges and mandarins and passion fruit or fechas, whatever's going. I'm not a gruff old bugger. I've got to get to the end of my tether now, though. So the school contractor said, this is the, I've spent all this money over here, that's not the problem. The only problem is here. I've run the GDC and told them the problem, the water can't get away. Well, I don't know what happens then. These two dead walnut trees, they were in my place here because the water is blocked. The Blaine is blocked here and it backs back there. It's killed them. Now, that is GDC's responsibility. I've told them about half a dozen times they're going to fall over the road, hit something, do something. I can't control it. They have killed them. They fix them. That's what I was showing you before. If the drain is blocked, the water flow is restricted, you're responsible for it. So the cost just with this little area here, the walnut trees were cut back. GD pays 5 times for jobs done in this area. Digging out the culverts twice, cleaning the culverts, surveying it all, trimming the trees all the way up, and traffic control. When it suited them, they had traffic control. When it didn't suit them, there isn't any. And there's still no change. Everything's still the same. Right? Right, this is just a couple of observations. I must be getting near the end of it. I'm sorry, I'm too fast. Right, Gus Thompson did all the culverts going up the Wainaki. 3 men. Man in the digger, men doing the pipes, and a guy trying to stop the odd logging truck and person who would stop anyway. But down at the school, Fulton Hogan, 7 people, there for 2 days, trucks, and then the 3rd day they were going to do further up the clean up further up the drain from the school. It's all done. But they were going to do that. So the next day, the 5 or 3 or 4 people that were doing the traffic control, they just drove around Manatuki, but there was no digger or truck or anything there. Just she's right. Somebody else is paying. Who cares? And later in the week, my son said, I had Fulton Hogan guys up here all day, 2 of them, 2 youths with people just bugging around all day, which I just want to tell you, there was $1 million, when I was about 20, there was a big retention dam put on our place there, which stopped all the flooding around Youngneek's Head, Muriwai, down to Murphy's Beach, all that area, so it only let through a 30-inch culvert or something like that. So after 55 years, it builds up a bit. There was $1 million contract. You know how much the contractor got? $500,000. The other $500,000 was eaten up by people bugging around, coming out. I mean, it was just a simple job. You just had to dig out the fill that had come down from the hills and put it on the hill, put it to the side. You didn't need to waste $500,000 on the council have said that they've held lots of payments. Well, why would you, if you were wanting to get a tyre fixed, would you keep going back to whoever was fixing your tyre and saying, oh, it's the valve's gone, or oh, it's a slow leak here, or there's a slow leak here? You'd say, bugger it, I'll go to somebody else. It's just silly sort of trying to deal with the same person. I mean, there are plenty of ways, different ways of doing it, but I'm not here to say that. We've had many different replies from the GDC, and a lot of them are just not right, regarding any issues that if it does sort of have a light bulb moment, I would love to be there with a meeting with GDC and Fulton Hogan and the appropriate people to actually make sure the left hand knows what the right's getting, whether the truth's actually ever getting through. And there just doesn't seem much accountability on anything spent at all. Last one. This is just a quick breakdown of the money spent. This is just regrowth, how I've done. So I reckon it's about 60,000, whether it's 55 or 70 or 80,000. GDC have paid to contractors, this is not Gabriel, for nothing, for absolutely nothing, for just being inefficient. Unnecessarily spent $500,000 at the school. I've lost 400,000 and nothing has changed. The 65,000 or 55 or 50,000 could have easily been spent, if spent properly, could have easily fixed the whole situation properly. Right, and there's a bit there about, oh no, you're on your own now. Well, we've tried. I mean, you know, just different things. They're just different replies. I've got heaps of them in here.
Thank you for your presentation.
I don't know.
Do any councillors have any questions? We're not here to debate this issue or to
No, I
discuss
realise
it,
that, but I'm
we
hoping it might get some.
Councillor Gibson.
So firstly, thank you for the presentation. I love it when local people have good insights like that. My question is around, do you think that small, like Tier 3 contractors, local community contractors would have had a better impact than our larger Tier 1s?
Dare I say it, I hate this expression, great question. Of course they should. I mean, Thompson should have, we'll say, from Karakia Road all around this area, Parata somewhere, Kuru somewhere, just give them there. The old-fashioned way of having a digger and a tractor and a trailer doing all the Tahanga, Pihuri, Waineki, Williams Road, all these roads should just have somebody going full-time. You wouldn't have all this trouble. This would have been done 20 years ago. It just wouldn't have happened. Of course it's much better. Much better. You just got this big conglomerate and they, oh, well, it's government will give us some more money. Who gives a tuppeny?
Thank you.
And just in regard to the school culvert, has that flooded much since Gabriel?
Well, we haven't really had, we've had it once since then, a lot of rain, but it doesn't until you get a lot of, and I'm talking, well, the Gabriel was a lot of rain, but it was, you don't need as much as Gabriel for me to get flooded again for the school, because the moment the drain starts running, the outlet from the school is that much underwater. So it just floats. I mean, it just, you can't, it's, if they just fix the blooming culvert further down, put it in at the right level, all these problems would be solved, but nobody can, even though it's surveyed, and we use lasers, even country boys use lasers, but they don't.
Thank you.
Sorry, have I done my 11 minutes?
No, that's okay. We've actually got drains on our agenda later on, so...
Well, yeah, I just would like to get this fixed up. It's not a big deal, but nobody will talk to the person that actually kind of knows.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda today is a deputation from the people from Eastwoodhill. So I welcome up here Mike Torrie, Anna Roberts and Max Matenga.
You want to stand with you?
Yeah. We can bring the chairs over here.
Thank you.
Welcome and go.
Go?
Yes.
Morning everybody, and thanks for having us here this morning. My name's Mike, Anna and Max, and we are part of the board of Eastwoodhill. And today we just want to give you an update as to where we're at and the opportunities we have with GDC and the wider community and some great stakeholders to ensure the National Arboretum, and we're going to say that a number of times to you today, the National Arboretum of New Zealand is not just surviving, it's thriving, and you understand the place it is. It is so magical for this community, and I want you to understand the opportunities that we hold at this place. So it's been a journey for the last 12 months for the new board to take on Eastwoodhill. And so that journey has really been about it's now or never. It's now or never for Eastwoodhill to actually make its stake as the National Arboretum and actually make its play for the future. And so if you think about the Act in 1975, H.B. Williams donated that park to the country. And then in that time, it was given the title of the National Arboretum. It's got three purposes: the collection, number one, education, and recreation. And we, collectively, are pushing hard to make that happen. We are pushing hard to make that happen. So I'm going to hand you over to Anna and Max to talk about the three big projects we've got on the go at the moment. But I think the opportunity for us to talk about in the future is we do have an MOU with the council. You are part of the Act to appoint someone to our board. There are huge opportunities between us to make that happen. I'm really passionate about this place. Anna's passionate about this place. Max is passionate about this place. And I think there's huge opportunities in the MOU between us. And that's something we want to talk to the council in the future. So I'm going to hand you over to Anna.
Hello everybody, my name is Anna Roberts, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Many of you, or some of you may recognise me and Mike, who have been involved in the Midway Surf Rescue Community Hub development, and our next community challenge is Eastwoodhill. My focus is on the marketing and strategy, and as I tell the Eastwoodhill staff, we are the National Arboretum of New Zealand. So we're all about lifting the standards and the visitor experience when you come. You'll see a number of changes now when you walk up to the visitor centre in the shop. There's no longer sellotape strapped to the window, blue tack melting. We have, you walk into the store and there's beautiful stock in there now that's walking out the door at rapid rates. You're greeted with some fabulous staff with big smiles on their face. Our social media engagement is really exciting. The last campaign that we did, over 1,000 people commented and tagged on the giveaway. We've also got some fabulous activation packages like Pause in the Park every weekend, the first weekend of every month. You can now bring your furry friend on a lead and come and walk the 25 k's of trails. So this has brought further engagement. This is happening again this weekend, being the first weekend of the month. So we've got people from Tairāwhiti saying, look, we've never been to Eastwoodhill in 30 years. So it's exciting. This has increased our leadership and engagement. We've also, alongside not only reviewing our website over the coming months, but we're reviewing from the visitor experience journey from the roundabout as you drive all the way up. Now the signage or not having signage there, as you may all know, reviewing that. And then the main entrance is getting a refresh along to just ensure that we are the National Arboretum, the status. So when you walk in there, there's something special because it is such an incredible place. There's also a number of other projects going on, and Max is going to talk to this as well. But from the front of the park, you weave through, and there's the wayfinding signage, the visitor map. There's been issues over the direction of how to find things. We're fixing that, and then you go to the back of the park, and then there's this fabulous new project called the Paireriwa. This is a brainchild of a Japanese billionaire who is very fond of New Zealand, and he's wanting a trail right throughout New Zealand on, in simplistic terms, bench seats, where they'll last 1,000 years and have 1,000 of them throughout New Zealand, and Eastwoodhill is fortunate enough to be involved in this. And this is going to be another amazing attraction because actually it's going to be positioned in a really special place on the ridgeline of Rua's Track. So many of you will know about Rua's Track, the famous lifeline, and that's exciting because there's many educational opportunities which Max will talk to as well, and these seats will be a place to ponder and be present, and which doesn't happen often in our world. So it is exciting there, and I'll hand over to Max because there's so many wonderful things happening. It's a really positive story, and we're really looking forward to partnering more with GDC in this opportunity as the National Arboretum of New Zealand.
Yeah, nā morena anō. Firstly, I'll start by acknowledging Patrick Willock. So for those, just a little fun fact, formally I'm actually appointed on behalf of the council, but also advocate for mana whenua. So if you look at the constitution, you'll see the different positions within the board, and so that's formally my position is on behalf of the council. So once again, it's really, really lovely to be here. And as you'll see through the little booklet that's been compiled and put together. So in addition to the new front entry that Anna spoke about, we've got a waharua that's been fully carved at the moment by our whanaunga Temane Tuho. And so we're fortunate enough to take Anna and our marketing manager to Tam's workshop, aka his shed, to have a look at the mahi that's happening, and there's some beautiful mahi that's happening there. And then, so the entry, the waharua, and then the imagery on the waharua will then inform the storyboards that are about to be put throughout the Arboretum as well. And so at present, it may feel kind of like a little disjointed and clunky, where we've got the entry, the waharua, the beginning of the new track, and then at the top of the Arboretum, the Wharerewa. But once everything is complete, it'll tell a story right from the beginning all the way to the top end of the Arboretum. And there's a piece there where there's an acknowledgement to Rua's track, but we've gone with the term te ara, just a pathway. And so to leverage off the comment made by Anna around a lifeline, so that ara connected the Patutahi Pā to the Ngātapa Pā all the way into Maunga Pōratu, and in and around the Arboretum, not just within the Arboretum itself, but in and around there were a lot of food sources. Kai in the Taumata Popo stream, you've got inanga. So just done some work with Waiconnect and the Tairāwhiti Environment Centre, and where we learned just recently that inanga or whitebait spawned up there. And so that's just one example of many examples. And so these storyboards will be connected to the imagery depicted in the waharua. And so the raparapa will acknowledge Te Haki and Whareana, who are the wives of Kai. At the apex, or the tiko will be Kai, and then on both sides, the amo. There's an acknowledgement to Douglas Cook as well as H.B. Williams. And so to come back to the front entry, it's going to be a beautiful opening piece there, and then there'll be 3 Pope. And if you're wondering, well, why 3? Well, once again, it acknowledges mana whenua, H.B. Williams as well as Douglas Cook. So everything's kind of happening in 3. And I guess as an advocate for education, there's multiple opportunities for localised curriculum and local curriculum design, and so all the storyboards that are being created as we speak will all be bilingual. They'll be strategically positioned throughout the Arboretum, where there'll be we've kind of had multiple discussions around less being best. So we'll have a few words on there, but then you can access a lot more information through QR codes, and we're working on looking at how there can be alignment to the New Zealand curriculum to ensure that we've got enough knowledge and enough information there for our kura, whether it be kura tuarua, kura tuatahi, or primary or secondary or tertiary for that matter, can come in and learn and do the courses through the information provided in the Arboretum. And so we've got a lot of awesome different initiatives in the pipeline, and at present, I'll touch wood, but our master carver Temane says that it'll be ready by the 25th of July. So the idea is that we have an unveiling, a morning dawn ceremony on Saturday the 25th of July, where we will unveil the new front entry, the waharua, and the first wayfinder, which will be the beginning for the new track, which has been given the name He Ara. And collectively, we've come up with the name Te Pūtahitanga, which will be a theme which acknowledges unity, kotahitanga. Kotahitanga seems to be a popping term, but we thought, we'll go away a little bit, and so from kotahitanga, but still meaning the same thing. And we've come up with the name Te Pūtahitanga, which is exactly the same as carries the same notion as kotahitanga. Nothing else for me, and right now I'll hand it back to Mike. Kia ora
So
tātou.
just to wrap that up, and I think you can see the education piece, but coming back to the collection as well, the other pieces of the pie or the puzzle we are working on is the Friends of America. So reactivating the Friends of America and getting them involved with Eastwoodhill again is a huge project we will take on in year 2 of our 3-year plan to revitalise the place, so that's a huge part of it. The collection itself is why we exist out at Eastwoodhill, so we've got a great team of people there now. We've actually got people who know what they're doing with trees on the ground, which is a big plus. And that collection is actually now in a program of revitalisation. We've got 400 trees arriving in a month's time to be planted. You know, we've actually got to make this thing happen. And in that phase of making this happen, our stakeholders are super important to us, and we've got many stakeholders that help us along the way, and one of them is the council. And we have an MOU which we need to get back to the table with to understand how we can play together, be together, and make this thing the actual strategic asset for this community that it is. Because it is. And if we don't actually take it in our hands and make it happen, then I'm really, really making sure everyone understands what's at stake here for the next 3 years for Eastwoodhill. It's super important that we actually understand what's at stake here. So I'm passionate about it, these guys are passionate about it, we've got a great board, we've got great staff on the ground, and hopefully I'm going to get everyone to raise their hand to say they've been to Eastwoodhill in the last month, in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months, in the last 12 months. So there's your challenge, folks. This community needs to understand what they have on their doorstep. It is a magic place. It is a magic place. Please, please, take it on board and go and see it. So we are here to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Has anyone got any questions? Councillor Foster.
Have you got assistance from the tourism arm of Trust Tarawhiti initiative?
So yes, we've had a big engagement with Trust Tarawhiti over the last 12 months in the sense of both funding, and that is around us delivering outcomes for tourism. So yes, we are engaging with them. We've been to the trends, those activities as well. So that's with the trust as well. So in that sense, I think there's huge opportunities, Larry. But coming back to the council, I would say to you guys, what are we doing with Riri Rock Slide? It's 2 kilometres from the Eastwoodhill. You know, we are there. We've got 2 of the best assets in this region sitting together from a tourism point of view. Yeah. What are we doing together to make that happen? A magic place, 2 kilometres apart. We talk about the track. I don't even know if the track goes there. But anyway, there's opportunities I think that we can talk about around how we can make that a better place, a bigger place, a huge opportunity. But yes, we are engaging with Trust. We need to go back and present to them in about 3 months' time about what we've done and where we've got to. So we're definitely making that happen.
Any other questions? Oh, thank you very much for coming and
That's okay.
here, guys, and sharing all that with us. My grandson went up the other day and he said it's the best place in the world, Nana.
And it's something to consider. Like, I challenge you to see how can Eastwoodhill fit in your long-term plan? Because that's what you're looking at now, I believe, and it would be wonderful to see some thought put into that of how it can fit in the long-term plan and work together with you, because we can do wonderful things and bring people to the district.
Yeah.
You know, people fly into Queenstown and go, right, we want to go to the National Arboretum of New Zealand.
Why don't they?
So look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, we'll get into the main part of our agenda. We've got some interesting topics coming up today. The first one is on page 12, City Centre Revitalisation. I invite Diane Sutherland, the City Centre Revitalisation Program Manager, to come up here. I think there's going to be a presentation, and this paper is a discipline paper, so we'll be looking at what's coming up and offering some suggestions. Thank you.
Sorry.
Kia ora tata. I'll take the paper as read and just to remind you that this is a paper in that, sorry, before we go into John's presentation, that this work has been informed in terms of the engagement that has happened throughout the Catalyst and also through the AIP process, and is a continuation of the workshop that we had, which was last month.
Kia ora koutou. As Anita said, I'll take the paper as read. We've got a presentation to take you through what the options look like. And also, as Anita said, we're building off the feedback that we received from you in April at that workshop. So you'll see those reflected. The options are intentionally very focused. They're important. They're focused because of this environment that we're in. But we don't lose sight of the 20-year plan and vision that we have to really revitalise the city centre in an economic and social way. So we will take you through those options. We expect that you'll have questions at the end, and I'll give you a handout at the end too, which has the dollars. But if you could sit through the presentation, but feel free to ask as many questions as you have once we get to the end. So I'll introduce and hand you over to John, who you met back in April.
Kia ora koutou.
From Athfield Architects.
Yeah.
And take it away.
We'll get into it. Thanks for having me again. And just to let you know that online, Nicole Thompson and Blair Waipara from the team are both here as well. Blair from Tohono and Nicole from
Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou.
So today,
Kia ora.
we wanted to take you through is some updates on the process, just remembering where we left off at our last discussion, some strategy benchmarking to get our heads in the game around thinking through scenarios, both in terms of phasing and timing and duration, as well as scope. And then review of some of the public realm scenarios that we've developed, some conversation around that on the strategy, and then hoping to get today to a decision on at least being able to move these options forward into some additional community engagement. We wanted to start with the city centre in context, just as a reminder of the strength of the city centre connected to the region. And having just heard about a magic place, I got to say, I woke up this morning at 6 a.m. and walked from the beach into the city centre, and it was a pretty magic place. Sunrise in Gisborne along the river's edge, pretty stellar. Where are we in the process? What you're seeing at the top is a summary of engagement to date, building on, off to the left of that, another set of engagement through the Catalyst Initiatives project. And below, the sort of process diagram of the AIP. So we're sitting in this environment and communities meeting now. What you see shaded out is this next round of engagement that we're wanting to work into. So we're in the process now of, we've developed a first round of options for review. Over the next month, we'll be refining those options and building out the business case in parallel to that in order to deliver that AIP document. I wanted to remind us of where we left off with a set of collective guiding principles. And the update here is these are now in the hands of Rangwhakata Iwi Trust. So we've been able to have a couple of meetings there. So these are sitting in draft still, as per our last discussion. There were some comments that we received in that meeting that we may well wrap into these principles on their next evolution, but we're now in the process of soliciting feedback on these from RIT as well. I think it's key to note that these principles have emerged out of that consultation, and they offer up some clear priorities around mana whenua-led, the idea of the civic, community and economic heart of within the city centre. Great streets, places to bring people together, community connected to te tau, to nature, really strongly came through in the consultation efforts. And then hospitality, manaakitanga in everyday life, and what that means for hosting and hospitality and comfort and safety within the city. Hopefully you'll see these start to emerge through the options as we review them. We had reviewed this framework diagram and we've been working strongly to drive this urban framework diagram into the city centre planning. This is about condensing the city centre, connecting to the river, recognising future connections north-south. Critically, it's also, and we've added this layer in our latest round of thinking, it's recognising existing investments made and acknowledging that over the past 10 years, Investments in civic infrastructure have been made and they're important. How do we best connect to them and leverage that investment? The only one that's directly in the city centre is the library. That's important, and we'll come back to that in a little bit, but there's many that are city centre adjacent, so how can we draft that energy into the city centre and strengthen those connections? The diagram is holding as we've tested, so we've been continuing with this diagram to reform the plan. That is condensing the city centre into the Gladstone and Peel intersection, recognising this role of trying to intensify the city, and then connecting more strongly out to the river's edge. In discussions with RIT, we've added Hey Pipi as an important site to recognise, particularly with the pedestrianisation of the railway bridge and that new landing point into the city centre and what that will mean and how that space transitions from the Hey Pipi landscape component into a precinct connecting to the river's edge. So that's just how we're starting to think through that additional moment in the plan. Development opportunities, you saw this slide in the last iteration too. Critically, this has been driving our thinking. Our focus is urban revitalisation. We'll talk about that more, and that is economic revitalisation, recognising where we are, stimulating that. Developing the business cases happening in parallel. This is a bit of a mechanical slide, but we just wanted to point out the fact that that process has started, and that's around starting to understand how we'll assess and define problems and benefits and solutions in good business case language to support the AIP. This is a quick little burst presentation on 3 case studies, Rotorua, and what we've done on each is just indicate the scale of the Gisborne AIP, the city centre study area on the left, and the extents of the plans that drove revitalisation efforts in these cities. And we're going to look back sort of 15 years on each of these, and that's the sort of duration, 15 to 20 in some cases, that we're looking at in terms of the way that these plans and strategies have rolled out over time. Acknowledging that AIP, we're working on a 10-year framework. So here's, first is Rotorua, Hastings, and Wanganui. We don't want to go through this in detail, we'll give you these details, but what we've done is just taken a look at each of them in a series of phases to understand how that revitalisation is rolled out and think about what the plan for Gisborne might be. We've done this with these 3 and others as a way of understanding steps in the process of revitalisation for the city centre. So in this case, and it's pretty consistent across all of them, there's a phase 1 that involves strategy and trials and testing. There's a phase 2, in this case, Eat Street, a catalyst project that was invested in following that first round of testing. Phase 3, with the confidence that that project worked, it expanded out into the city centre with additional public space and public realm upgrades. And then phase 4 was a significant investment, and that was in the lakefront. So that big lakefront investment in the waterfront, in the waterfront there. This is running from 2009 on the left over to 2025 on the right. In Hastings, again, strategy and enablers at the beginning, testing. Some early pilot projects in this case, rather than one single. Public realm acceleration, those were tested, they worked, they did more. And that effectively led to 23 coordinated laneway projects across the city that were stitched up very well with private sector investment. And then on the right, and some of these happened, so they started about 2019, a series of investments in larger civic and private scale anchors. And that's the Hawke's Bay Arts and Event Centre. When we think about what's happened in Gisborne, those investments have been made. You know, that, if we think back to that first diagram, so how we think about some of those anchor investments versus other things happening, we're sort of looking back and forwards. In Wanganui, similar strategy and enablers in the front. This is very much arts and culture and identity driven. Tactical activations and confidence building, public realm and street transformations in a sort of a temporary, semi-permanent fashion, and then civic and cultural anchors at the end. I'm sure many of you have been over to visit some of those. The point being here, there's some key themes that emerge. Testing first, building confidence, public investment to drive private sector investment, passionate people driving the process, thoughtful programming, around activations, not just capital, activations and events, and coordinated management and stewardship of those events. So we're thinking here both in terms of capital investment, but also operational investments in a management structure that allows the city centre to evolve well. As we leap into a sort of a stepping off point to our planning, we wanted to come back to a few key points. Investments have already been made in civic anchor projects like the library, the council buildings as we've discussed, Inner Harbour, skate park, pump track, the 2 theatres, the trails, and big box retailers that's coming to the city centre now. Many of these are city centre adjacent. The process has already started. We're already in phase 1, and that's early wins, the CBD custodian, the Heritage Facade Fund, which we've seen the first result of, Art in the City, the Downtown Lounge. These activations are starting to build some energy. We need to continue those. Mana whenua are at the table. We've been able to have our first conversations there. There's sites of significance and opportunity within the city centre. So how do we make sure that that partnership is authentic and really has impact? Key partners are ready to invest in the city centre. GHL has taken the lead. The scaffolding's up on that first building. Trust Tairāwhiti is working to follow. We really need to capitalise on that momentum, and it exists now. We know from the diagram that developers have land assembly. If we stimulate better returns through public realm enhancement and really build confidence to invest, this is what we've seen in Hastings. It's what we've seen in Wanganui, particularly heritage-led renovations. So how do we get that momentum building? But the fiscal environment is very constrained, different to those 3 precedents that we looked at. They were delivered in different economies. And so we need to be realistic about that, and we need to understand how we can plan for impact and balance vision to work towards with the practical realities of delivering things that will make stuff happen. 3 more quick points. The community is clear and aligned on the project principles. We've seen that as we've run through our consultation. There's really good alignment. Mana whenua-led, connected to nature, and whenua focused on people, community, hospitality, and economic revitalisation. There's a great story to tell about Tairāwhiti. It's a unique place in New Zealand from a mana whenua perspective, but also from a tangata treaty perspective. That story needs to be told really strongly in the city centre. It's important for regional tourism. It's also really important for the city centre. And we're still focused on the fact that the city centre is a great place to live and work. We want to drive up the level of amenities. We want to try and make it easier and more permissive to do conversions. How can we support developers with legislation and tools that will make this happen? That's part of the plan. There's a series of benefits that we're starting to look at within the business plan and that we're able to measure against in terms of assessing success. And we've been using these as criteria to assess the options. We're going to take you through a series of options. 2 of them at the beginning are really setting a baseline. We don't see them as options, but we think that it's important that they're on the table for discussion. The following 3 are incrementally larger investments in the city centre that we think will drive change. The status quo is set as a baseline. That is a do minimum option, and that's just business as usual. Keeping on doing what we're doing, which is the only real investment is a couple of $100,000 a year in fixing up paving as it breaks. It's got a hatch tag on it because that money's not in the AIP budget, it lives in another budget, but it's effectively just letting things roll. Option 1, we've described as maintain and enhance existing assets. And that option, I'll give you numbers and we'll come back to numbers at the end, is an $8 to $10 million option. And that option is to do with repaving the entire city centre in the zones where the paving is failing. It's a straight maintenance project. Now, we don't think that's a real option either for what the AOP is tasked with, which is urban revitalisation. But we acknowledge that it's a process that's one of maintenance that may need to be thought of in the context of the plan and in parallel to the plan.
That's actually concrete and asphalt too.
Concrete and asphalt. Yep, so it's taking a strategy that would reinforce, we'll talk to it a little bit, but it realises very little benefits in terms of the goals of the AIP beyond a little bit of future resilience. Option 2A, and we'll talk through all these in a little bit more detail, so I'm just giving you the summary, is targeted transformation and placemaking. It's focused on Low Street, it's quite small and focused, and then some Tech 2 activations elsewhere. Option 2B expands that into a loop within the city centre to touch additional areas of the city centre. And then option 3 is a full transformation that then takes that and wraps it into Reed's Quay. And in order of magnitude for each of these, 3.5 to 4.5 million of investment, 7 to 9 million of investment, 23 to 25 million dollars investment. So in terms of just setting horizons for each of those scenarios. We'll unpack them a little bit. This is a slide just to give you a grounding in the context. This is just a map of the existing paving in the city centre. The red is the format, the pink coloured paving that's existing. So the status quo option is effectively inside the grey line, lives all of that end of life paving. It's just keeping on with fixing it here and there as you need. So that's an operational cost. Repair existing paving, funded through the operations budget, no real impact on city centre revitalisation. Maintain and enhance existing assets. This is option where we start to think about just repaving the city as it is. We replace existing end-of-life paving, asphalt to general streets and gateway areas, and concrete to the central zone, just a slight uplift in quality in the central zone. Annual cycle of investment over 10 years, minimal impact on revitalisation. That's my taxi card from rail that I just dropped. So it's really a subtle upgrade in paving finishes. Option 2A is the beginning of something where we're starting to think about targeting investment to drive additional revitalisation. It starts as a process with recognising the critical role of North Peel as a civic and community heart for the city centre currently. We're saying we don't think that's the right place to make a capital investment in the early phase. We want to keep managing that effectively and supporting programs and activation for that space. And we want to continue to support initiatives, improvements, and activations on Gladstone. But there's no significant capital investment in those spaces. North Peel Street is a really important space. We're recognising the importance and the impact of that original library investment and the positive benefits that brings to North Peel. We've recognised through the consultation efforts the draw for rangatahi to Treble Court. That's identified clearly as the sort of heart of our rangatahi engagement in the city centre, a sort of a landing pad and a place. So we need to work to support that and enhance that programming. We need to work to support adjacent development opportunities, and there are a few of those. So the orange bars you see with the D in the middle of them, that's identified potential development opportunities that we've discussed with owners and others within the city. So in this case, the theatre, and then Robbie McCann's site with the courtyard behind. And then the redevelopment of the refit of the building on the top corner as well. And then we discussed the potential of establishing a night market as a potential programming opportunity for Peel Street. We know other places have been discussed for that, but the logic of putting it in the community centre adjacent Treble Court, where it might spill in and out of Treble Court, a real interest of rangatahi in that, is that the right place to start to activate with a program like that, adjacent parking, either within the south part of Peel or on Reed's Quay.
Like a food night market?
It could have food component, it could also be craft, it could be, Rangatahi have a real interest in places to spend time and to browse and connect socially while moving. Free events, things that they can do in public space. So the goal of trying to establish more of that through here in a night market in this location feels like it could have benefits. The next part of 2A is a sort of a first step, and this is recognising that we've got 10 years within the AIP. There's some utilities infrastructure upgrades that are going to happen through the city centre. And in years 1 and 2 of the AIP, those upgrades need to happen. Through that period, and maybe into year 3, we're promoting the idea of some tactical urbanism and activations in Reeds Quay and Low Street. That would promote spaces for active use, especially at the key corners, food and beverage related activations, potentially focused on Low Street, and then events, play and market related activations to Reeds Quay. If we could convince the farmers market to come, that would be awesome. But if we can also program additional events into that space, change people's behaviour, get them used to using the spaces differently, building habits differently, that starts to draw them to a space ready for a next stage. Gisborne Holdings has made that investment on the corner. They're doing the work on that building now. There's a parklet activation happening on the street. Outside of that, that's kicking off the process. So we want to test the F&B draw change behaviours and support development of targeted activation. What that might look like, you know, here's Low Street now. Here's a sense of how you might start to occupy that street with furniture and temporary activations in order to start to change people's behaviour and provide opportunities for it to be different. And that might change driving behaviour within that street as well. Reeds Quay now. Reeds Quay with some simple activations. One of the things that we're promoting in the longer term plan would be to shift Reeds Quay to one-way. And that would provide additional space for activities at its edges. In the future, that might mean the buildings being activated adjacent to it, spilling out onto the street edge, a wider promenade against the river. But in the short term, can we test that? Can we run that as a temporary program? Just a couple of images to remind us that tactical urbanism doesn't need to be all paint and colours and that only. It can be thoughtful. It can be straightforward. This is parklets that have been done in Nelson and Wanganui, temporary street activations using standard components. These are, you know, concrete feed troughs, water troughs being used for planters, and then also that they're very much about experience. So events is huge, driving experiences within these spaces that start to mean people have a positive connection to the space and the experience of that space. In year 4 of this 2A option, we're suggesting that Low Street is redeveloped fully as a shared space street. That's an investment in a more transformational environment. You do it right, you embed the AIP principles, nature in the city, connected to the river, Mana Whenua presence. All of those are driven into that project to create a really unique destination in the city centre. And that is done for a few reasons. It's done to build trust and to show the market response in a place that people currently don't care too much about, that's off the traffic network. And it can rebuild trust in the idea of a public realm investment driving high quality transformation. This is the sort of suite of development opportunities that have been identified around Low Street. So we think this location also has a real ability to impact multiple adjacent development sites. We really want to focus on food and beverage and retail leasing in that street. There's not a ton of tenancies, so getting it, getting all of those filled up with real focus and an improved streetscape, good manageable, it's a short street. And then recognise the value that that amenity would provide to promote residential conversion. Part of this focus is recognising that if we can drive up the value a little bit of things around it, it'll tip the balance for developers in terms of what they can get for rents, which are a challenge for them converting buildings currently. So if we can start that process in a part of the city, then we can facilitate more things happening. So this is the image I showed you before of Low Street tactical urbanism. And here's an image of an idea for Low Street as a shared space street. So that's taking out the curbs, repaving it, bringing green into the space, bringing that sense of nature into the space strongly, and a set of precedents about the idea of not just creating a street, but creating a place and a really strong sense of destination, nighttime, daytime. So just some examples of different streetscapes. That some of them are more loose fit, some of them are tighter. but they've got real energy about them. They establish a strong character. There's great historic buildings on that street. It's got great bones to work with. And the street does one thing, it's the platform for the activations, but the things around it, the uses, the historic buildings, really will bring the life. And so trying to focus on that. So that's the end of 2A. 2A would be just do Low Street. Now we're going to unpack some steps in 2B. So building off of that investment, we're suggesting the next project could be a targeted intersection improvement, Gladstone and Low. That brings a few other potential development sites into play in terms of connections and improvements. It would be focused on enhancing that crossing for pedestrians, maintaining traffic flow, but greening that crossing, closing it in, making it better suited to pedestrian activity. Focused intervention, we can take care of the paving as we go through this piece. So we're taking off some of the load from the city on maintaining that. And this is working around, starting to have an impact into Gladstone. The next step would be to do a central block of Gladstone. Again, that touches a series of development opportunities. The transformation here would be taking your existing streetscape and doing what we're describing as a targeted transformation. It's not a full rethink of the streetscape. It's not moving curbs. Once we move curbs, it gets more expensive. We're not suggesting at this stage that we shift to parallel parking. We could, there's options where we've looked at that, but at this stage we're suggesting we keep focused to keep those dollar values down, the curbs stay where they are, we repave the streets, we cut out new openings at the base of the existing palm trees. There's a strategy around, that's implemented over time to replace those palm trees, either with native palms or new natives within the streetscape over time. Not in one big hit, but gradually changing the character of the streetscapes. New lighting, new paving. We've taken out the stripes and we've put dots to open up the street, make it a bit cleaner. Just really shift the nature of the street. The next step is a central improvement to Peel Street. Taking that existing central crossing and really thinking about opening that up, repaving that streetscape, introducing nature into the street. Similar strategy probably around palms, where we're saying that replacement over time with natives. But starting to set up a kind of a sort of an island of stronger, more intense green at the centre of that street, and then a north and south element that can be programmed, zoned, used as parking reservoirs and activated for events. And then the last piece of option 2B is intersection improvements at Peel, at Gladstone. Similar approach to what we just did further down. Again, adjacent development sites. A similar approach to improvements. This is improving accessibility. It improves accessible parking. It improves the crossings. There's a lot of topography in the crossings currently, so working to smooth those out, make those transitions easier for less able-bodied people. So really working on a whole series of kind of practical but also qualitative and impactful changes to that intersection. So that is option 2B. That's 2A plus these additional projects, and this is now sitting in that $7 to $9 million investment range. Option 3, we're describing as full transformation. We have to be realistic, right? We're operating on a part of the city centre, we're not operating on all of it. The goal here is to start an engine in terms of, as part of the city centre, generate activity that will generate development that will start to make change, bring some revenue in through development contributions that can then be distributed out through the balance of the city centre as well. But that's sort of the focused lens that we think we need to take with the fiscal challenge that we have in the environment currently, is to work at it incrementally, step by step, logically. Reeds Quay is a significant project. Within the scope of the AIP and what we understand is the fiscal constraint we have, we don't think we can deliver this in this cycle, but we think the vision of it is really important. there's not a vision for it, you won't move towards that vision. Who knows what might happen in year 7, year 8. Maybe another billionaire takes an interest in this. You know, maybe there's a philanthropic component to play or some other thing that allows this to happen. So we think it's important to establish a vision for a transformation here and try and work towards it collectively as confidence builds with a series of steps. So option 3, this is what lifts us into that $23 to $25 million range, because it's looking at enhancements of Reed's Quay that include a whole sequence of things, but if this is the sort of sitting in the state of tactical urbanism, which could be done in a little bit of a semi-permanent fashion, knowing that it's probably going to last quite a long time. Then we're starting to think through options for how we adjust the streetscape of Reed's Quay. So it's sort of a lower cost version of it, where we are maintaining asphalt in the centre, but we're dropping the curbs, flushing that out, paving that street edge to allow buildings that have now turned their faces to this edge to spill out onto it, widening the promenade edge, starting to introduce moments along the promenade, including play and some of those other components. And things like play can be tested in tactical urbanism. We could test a temporary playground, for instance, to see if it actually makes sense and it attracts families. You know, we could do that temporarily before we do it.
The tactical urbanism cost of Reed's Quay is in options 2A and 2B.
Yeah. So there's already about $500,000 baked into this cost for the tactical urbanism component. So these numbers aren't like on top of each other. They're sort of within each other as you go up. So now we're back to our options. In summary, which we can maybe stick on, and we'll give you the little handout so you've got it in front of you with the numbers. And I think for discussion, you know, we're recommending that as a next step for community engagement, that it is focused on options 2B or 3, depending on how far we want to go in terms of pushing this vision out. That would be acknowledging that external funding requirements would be required for Reed's Quay, just being upfront about where we're at. It's a phased program of work rather than a project. We think that's important for an AIP, that it is a phased sequence of projects. It's focused on revitalisation with targeted transformation and placemaking enhancements. So what we're suggesting as an engagement strategy, and we'll discuss this with you, is that we'll present a summary of the goals for the AIP, the process to date, the initial consultation results, the guiding principles, the framework, the things that you've seen already, set the context. We'd sort of describe the journey that we've been through in terms of the options assessed and the recommended option and the reasoning for it. And then either would seek feedback on the phasing order and the relative importance of the component parts, or would inform the community of the proposed roadmap and would talk about the why it is the way it is, and just work to inform the community about the background thinking, the strategy. And I think that's what we feel like hopefully is the crux of the conversation today, beyond obviously unpacking the options as you'd like.
Okay, so we'll start off with some questions and think about it before you put your hand up, because you're going to get one shot at questions, okay? And then we're going to work out what we're here for. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. My question is, what phase do you bring the eyesight into town?
Yeah, I think the eyesight sort of could live in any of those development opportunities, and I think the logic of the eyesight being located proximate to Love Street, whatever that means, we know there's options on the table for where that could be within that zone. A number of them are in that area. Makes sense. I think that that ideally would happen quickly, and I think there is potentially, you know, we can't talk for Trust Tairāwhiti on that. That's a decision of theirs to make. But I think would be promoting the idea of it happening quickly, and in some proximity to Low Street.
Yeah, because to me that's a major catalyst of the whole project, really. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Is there any other questions? Councillor Rea.
Councillor Gregory, thank you for the presentation. What's really exciting is for some of the possible changes that it's not nearly as much as I thought it would cost. I thought it would cost a lot more to make some improvements that could make a real difference within our city centre. I'm really happy for our community to weigh in to this decision further. I'm also heartened by in reading in the paper the governance conversations that are already happening with RIT and bringing them on board with the city centre revitalisation. That's really positive as well. And I suppose for me it would be little things that we may not consider, like if we redevelop the very centre where we only have one city lights, how does that impact our youth who are studying for licenses? You know, it's those sort of things. Like, yes, that area is really cool, but if we take out the lights,
I think we would declare that transformation would keep lights.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. No, I know we've had this conversation before, and some people are like, yeah, let's get rid of the lights. So I was like, but if we get rid of it, when my kids move out of Gisborne, they have no idea how to navigate traffic lights while driving a car. You know, so it's just those little bits and pieces that we may have to consider as we're moving along. But I'm happy to move the paper.
If you were moving it, what would be your option to?
Wasn't the recommendation to be able to put
2B or 3?
2B or 3? Can we offer more than one suggestion? I would like to offer more than just saying this is our. I'd like to give the community the option of choice to be able to say this one or that one. Not what do you think about just this one?
Yes.
Through you, the Chair, I agree. I think we need that recommendation to be amended with the option numbers that we currently have. And if you agree as a committee, I would recommend that you endorse the progression of public realm options 2A, 2B and 3 to community engagement. And we'll engage for 4 weeks and bring that feedback to you in the August committee.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Ria? For your
2A, 2B.
2A, 2B and 3. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Tibble. Thank you, Councillor Tibble. And
I think Alex was prior to me. Okay. Is that all right?
Yes, it's fine.
Thank
and
you.
Then next
my question is this. We know that there requires a certain amount of investment to really get traction on this. And to me, I look at 0 adequately named and 1, and that doesn't stack up at all financially to me. I look at 2A and I'm like, it would be. I'm wondering with 2A if we do actually invest in 2A. Does it meet the level of investment to get us real traction for the outcomes we want? And then I'm looking at 2B and 3 and going, I want to ask that same question around 2B. It's like, where is that level of investment needed for traction and at what time point? Because I think over a 10-year period, I guess what needs to be invested at what point to really see traction? Because it's that traction that I really want to see out of this. Sorry, is that too complex a question?
No, it's a good question. I think momentum's important, and I think for us at least, looking at option 2A without 2B or 3 doesn't feel right. It's a single project, and it's not showing. It's sort of saying what we're going to do, and then it feels like we might just do that and stop, and that's not what we want to convey. We want to convey that we're starting something, and we're starting in a way that's practical and impactful, but we're going to keep going, and there's more things to do, and this is step 1 of a longer process. And I think the urban framework diagram and the sort of broader work that we're doing here, which will be part of the AIP, is probably trying to set a 30-year vision for the city in terms of both the city centre and how it connects to other parts of the city better. So there's projects there for a long time to come. I think we need to make sure that we set this work in the context of what might come next, in the next cycle, but we're trying to get it to the point where we're focused on a cycle of construction that makes some sense too. And to your question about timing around the options between 2A and 2B, it does make sense for us, if it could happen, would be for year 4 investment, year 3 or 4 investment in Low Street. You could do it hard on the heels of the infrastructure replacement that needs to happen in year 1 and 2. You could say year 3, we're going to start Low Street. I think you want to let it happen to a degree that people see it, and then quite quickly move to the next one. So I think at the moment our projections were sort of years 6 to 8 for the next sequence of things. And then, you know, at the end of that period, would be looking if there was the ability to find the dollars to Reed's Quay as the sort of final step in that. And that's following a model maybe not unlike Rotorua. We're testing Eat Street, additional improvements at intersections and other things, and then their big investment in the waterfront. And it's sort of following a similar model, if you like, to how that happened. And they may not have thought that they could do the waterfront either when they started, but they did. And we know that because we worked on the master plan for it. And I think there's confidence building in this, and we don't know what we don't know. And this way, this is a plan and a framework. We're showing illustrative images of what each of these projects are. As each project is delivered, there'll be a whole nother round of thinking about what each of those projects needs to be in the context of the time in which it's delivered. So I think, but you want to show momentum, you want to show the next steps in the path, and you want to have enough vision at the end of it that there's something there that feels just out of reach to work towards, would be our take on that. And I think that's running from year 1 through year 8. You know.
Thank you. That was really good context. Rhonda's already seconded it, eh?
Thank you, yes, she is. Thank you, Councillor Boris.
No, I agree with Sam's question there, or with that. Certainly the changes already creating flickers of hope and life in the CBD. I think that's shouldn't be underestimated how much there is, you know, this energy that you talked to real estate. There's a lot more discussions going on in CBD, and while retail is certainly, you know, a challenging area, there are businesses now moving in, you know, building businesses, etc., that they're bringing in their employees and they need to eat, and that has a, so while your typical city centre isn't going to look how it used to look, you know, it's a changing thing, and there's definitely hope from there. So I think
Felt that too, actually, just the difference between trips, having a bit of scaffolding up.
Yeah, you're very much interested in scaffolding. Councillor Alder.
Sorry, Debbie, could you outline the motion before I speak?
So the motion that's been moved by Councillor Rea and seconded by Councillor Tibble is that the committee endorses the progression of 3 public round vision scenarios, option 2A, 2B and 3, to community engagement.
Right. Just my comment and preference would be that, you know, and a reminder, we have suffered some reputational damage through Grey Street, and that putting in front a high-cost option or high-cost options could produce more of a negative effect. And I really think we can share the vision, but be solid on a short step. So personally, I'd be pushing for option 2A.
For only option 2A?
Only 2A with a shared vision.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we will progress with this, and if it doesn't pass, we can come back. Is there any other questions of Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I'm actually a bit lost on what we're actually committing to here. This is the first time we've seen this presentation and these numbers, and it's sort of like of us prior to this meeting with some more details, some numbers and everything else, and it's sort of like we've put on the spot with the first seeing it here. We've had no chance to bounce ideas of anyone else. You know, I'm just struggling what we're actually committing to here. Are we committing millions of dollars, and if so, like, something's missing out? Like if we're committing money to this, what's actually missing out? I'm just sort of a bit lost on what we're actually committing. Are we committing funds, or what are we committing to here?
My understanding is that we're just endorsing the progression of something that we promised about 4 or 5 years ago, that we would be doing work on the city revitalisation.
Through you, Chair, if I could respond. So today we're asking you for your endorsement to engage with the community. So the options that you've seen, this is an opportunity for the community also to see these and to see a low cost but impactful approach. It's an approach that has been informed around largely affordability. So it's a step-by-step aligning with opportunity for fiscally responsible council approach to it. It doesn't give you the razzle-dazzle all at once. It gives you targeted low-cost placemaking first, testing sites, and then following in behind. And why Low Street is programmed for year 3 or year 4 is also because of the underground utility work that happens in year 1 and year 2 that's programmed to come through the LTP. So we're building momentum, we're giving developers confidence that we're not just sitting on the idea of revitalisation with some art and empty shop windows and things, although they are very meaningful and impactful. We're showing a roadmap. It's a phased roadmap. It's a small commitment of budget and triennial opportunity for council to review it through an LTP process, one step at a time. This is simply asking if we can go with these options to the community to get their feedback, and they might have a variety of views, and we will appreciate that and bring them back to you.
So we're simply voting on the ability to go to consult. Correct. Not committing any funds as such.
Not asked yet. Correct.
Okay.
Have my right of reply? Thank you. So I just wanted to just note a few things. I think if we learned anything from Grey Street, that jarring permanent structures right at the offset are not a good idea. And I think as we're learning with other big ticket community engagement, like it has to be, we all have when we sat around these maps over here, it was an opportunity for us to be visionary. I think that our engagement with the community also has to be visionary. It's about putting cones out to block the road and putting bean bags out on the side of the road so people can start getting a real feel for what the space would actually feel like once these things are in place, because I think the more we can buy our community into that. So I get that these are the cost things, but I also think that there is a huge chunk that is going to have to go into community engagement, and we also have to be mindful of that, because any changes that our community vote in, that we end up voting on, essentially, if the community doesn't buy in, it's a waste of time. For any project, it's not just this project, for any project, if we don't get our community on side like we saw with Grey Street, then it is a waste of time. So it really is going to take sinking some money into that that engagement and with our community. And so if we're wanting this to be visionary, like how we felt when we stood around those maps, we have to actually present some visionary engagements with our community, as opposed to sitting at a little table with your flags and just asking them to come and comment on plans. They need to be able to see it and feel it. And I suppose that's just my closing suggestion that I will offer to the paper. And yes.
Thanks for that, Councillor Ria. This is a bit not procedure, but Councillor Tupara, I missed his hand just before you write a reply, so I'm just going to give him 2 minutes.
I'm going to give you the magic fingers.
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 minutes, Councillor.
It does follow on from Councillor Ria's comments. It's, for me, our community engagement needs to be very clear to our community and captured and collated and analysed appropriately to them. And I see in the report a focus on particularly the voice of rangatahi. Those rangatahi will be parents probably by the time this thing gets going. And just ensuring that the voice that's heard now is very clear and is informed that you're making, that those rangatahi are making decisions for the future generation because they tend to make rangatahi report. So just to be fair on them and the nature of their input. My other one, noticing with the clicking over of all the diagrams, heartened to see that Ronga Whakaati Trust is involved in this. It would be nice to have had them clearer in the report if you've already had some engagements on the nature of that engagement and how it's going. So it's very clear to council that they are there. And whilst you're talking to them, and just from our past relationships, talking with them but having them there is two different things. So just to keep that in mind. And the other one that's not apparent here is Trotek, the Runanga, because the Runanga building seems to feature in just about all of the diagrams.
Yeah, it does.
And it would be, and that also reflects on other iwi in Aotearoa and the nature of which their presence is real and actual, and there is commentary from them in that. Just to make it clear for us when we follow up from that engagement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to put to the vote. The recommendation is to endorse the progression of 3 public realm vision scenarios, option 2A, 2B and 3, to community engagement. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Passed. So now we're just going to take to 11 for a break. And this is our next paper we're going to go through is on page 21, and we're talking about the proposal to restrict motorised vehicle access over Titirangi. Take it away. Yeah.
Thank you. So this paper is going to be presented by Chris, who's on my it has been on the radar for a number of years, but it's, we've really brought it forward, really keen to have a conversation about the way forward with on Titirangi Drive. And we have been working really closely with Ngāti Onyoa on this piece of mahi. So I'll hand over to Chris to take you through the details and answer any questions.
Thanks, Michelle. Morena atamare, everybody. The purpose of this paper today is to get your endorsement for the next statutory step in a process to consider overnight vehicle restrictions on Titirangi Drive. The report sets out the context and background of the proposal in terms of illegal dumping and vandalism, unfortunately, that we have present on the Maunga. And as Michelle mentioned, this is a proposal that has been brought to us or initiated by Ngāti Onyoa, so we're considering it at their request. The proposal, broadly speaking, is to restrict vehicle access only. So this is not a closure of the reserve itself, but to put locked gates at either end of Titirangi Drive for those gates to be closed 10 p.m. in the evening and opened at 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, the timing of that, absolutely up for discussion, consultation. I've talked to other councils, and you might be aware, use sort of moving targets, dusk till dawn, for different times of the year, different seasons. On a bit of discussion around that, we thought given that Titirangi does remain a potential evacuation zone in the case of tsunami, that if we were to set in timing restrictions, it is in the public interest that we be consistent about that, so that it's clear when gates would be open or shut. Also, just to note that the gates would be opened and shut in response to requests for special events, or things that we know that are going on. Example of that, Matariki, the Titirangi Everest Challenge, Fire in the Sky, things like that. So there's definitely, an ability to open and close the gates at different times. keys will be held by the emergency services. I have, as outlined in the report, contacted the emergency services. They are all, you know, they aren't supportive of the proposal as such. That's not what we asked them. But they can see the value in closing, having a gate there, so long as that they have a key so that they can access it. The only comment from the emergency services was that should they have to open the gate on their way to an emergency, they couldn't guarantee it closing behind them. And we don't actually see that as a particular problem. So as I said, what the decision we're seeking from you here is for you to endorse this next statutory step, which is a period of public consultation over the proposal to receive public feedback and comment on it as an idea before bringing that back to you for a final decision. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Councillors, do you have questions? Councillor Foster.
Well, I've got questions, but I'm actually happy to move the paper because I see firsthand myself very regularly. I'm on the holidays and a lot of early mornings in particular, and I see the consequences of what's happened with rubbish that's been dumped. I see the consequence of vandalism, the burnouts that are done at the top, and also as residents of Kaiti Beach around that fireworks time, it's not uncommon for us to be woken up all hours of the night with fireworks being let off the middle of off the top of the hill over the residents of Kaiti Beach 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So to stop that would be great. One concern I do have is that a lot of people go up there in the mornings in summer, and when the sunrise, to see the sunrise. So I would like to certainly make sure that that opportunity was still there if people wanted to drive up there at like 5:30 in the morning so they could get the sunrise. I think 6 for 2 to 3 months of the summer might be a little bit late, you know, because people like to get up there and settle in and watch the sunrise from the top of the gun replacement. Yeah, so I'm really happy to see this paper come to the table. When I read through this report and saw the amount of vandalism, it was way more, and rubbish dumping was way more than I actually thought and saw in my own eyes. You know, but it's not uncommon to see burnt out vehicles up there, vehicles off the edge driven off the edge of the top, halfway down the bank. I've seen that numerous of times in the mornings, and so what happens up there at night is pretty scary.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Boris.
I'm definitely for this. I think something needs to happen. It's done. Titirangi's being treated. I do like the seasonal times, and I'm wondering if the 10 p.m. in the summer could actually be 9 p.m. so it was finishing at 7 and 9, and maybe that's a good point regarding a slightly earlier to catch that sunrise. I'm obviously not a morning person, so I didn't think of that, but I just wonder if that 10 is just a wee bit late. And actually, I do another point. I'll come back to that.
Are you happy to second the paper? I'm happy to second. Sure. Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Mine might be a little long, so I apologise.
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, so with respect to Ngāti Onioni and respect to my other councillors, I'll be opposing this proposal. The reason being is that it's not dealing with the issue, it's dealing with the symptom. And the issue is illegal rubbish dumping, and the issue is vandalism. If we close somewhere, it actually just shifts the behaviour and the issue to somewhere else, which requires the same amount of cost for us, the same amount of investment. What we are going to see, however, is that we're establishing infrastructure which creates cost for us. And we also will have to require someone to close that gate, drive over the Maunga and close the second gate every night and do the same thing every morning, which requires cost, which is a significant amount of cost. That's something I'm uncomfortable with. I'm also uncomfortable with setting a precedence of negative behaviour closing public assets. If we were to do that, the same precedence could be set for the Mad Mile and many other parks and recreational areas. For me, I don't see this as dealing with the problem. I see this as incurring additional cost without dealing with the problem. I took to, might have a chuckle at this, I put up weekly social media posts to gauge what the public think about the things that are coming up in our agendas. And interestingly, you could say this is not great statistical data. However, the comments on those Facebook posts, 20 of those were concerned about the rubbish issue and dealing with the problem, and only 3 of those thought that closing Titirangi was a good idea, and many of those 20 thought closing the road was a poor idea. They wanted to see the rubbish fixed. And I think that this is an issue that sits within our waste committee, and I would like to propose us installing cameras instead of hard infrastructure. We've seen a 40% reduction where we have installed cameras with illegal dumping around the rest of the region. But I do, in respect to Larry's comment, think that, hey, really targeted closures around high-risk periods, such as Guy Fawkes, is a great idea.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Was that a total of 23 comments?
Many of them were irrelevant, having a go at council for other things, but 23 of them were relevant.
Thank you. Councillor Order.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Councillor, fellow Councillor Sam Gibson. As you were talking, I went tick, tick, tick through my list. I stand with you on this. And the only 2 things you didn't mention that I was going to mention, one was the rocket launch. I'd like to reiterate the comment on the tsunami escape. I think that is quite a crucial point, that you're going to need cars to keep moving up that hill to do tsunami escape. And
cars at all. You don't want cars at all there. Sorry? You don't want cars at all on the hill with a tsunami escape, sorry.
Anyway.
Well, if someone has arrived in a car...
Walking. People walking.
Okay, well, I still think that's an issue. And my final point is, do none of you remember driving up there at night with your girlfriend? You're going to deny future generations.
That is valid.
A romantic destination.
Thank you, Councillor Order. Are there any other? Councillor Thompson.
You just stole my thunder. That was my opening statement. I think a lot of our populations only hear things to Kairi Hill. It's sort of renowned for nighttime visits. Yeah, I'm with Sam on this. I thought I was going to be on my own, but I know some people think like me. Yeah, I think it's unfair that you're removing such a great public asset, and it gets a lot of activity at night. So many people go and look at the stars and look over the city at night, and it's not fair on everyone to be punished because of the behaviour of a certain few. And all you're doing is shifting that behaviour somewhere else. They've got a truckload of rubbish they're going to dump. Instead of dumping it up Kairi Hill, they're going to...
Bunny Beach?
Yeah, it's going to go somewhere else. You're not solving the problem, you're removing the problem. What are you going to do? Shut Kairi Hill, shut the Mad Mile, and just keep shutting things, and everyone's punished because of the behaviour of a few. I think it's a great asset, and it gets, yeah, if you go up there at night, there's always cars up there looking over the city and whatnot, so yeah,
Thanks.
I'm against this.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Tibble.
Well, kia ora tātou. I acknowledge the comments for and against the issue we're looking at the moment. I think another way to consider the problem is that while we might have perceptions about what happens up Titirangi Maunga, you and I are not the ones that are having to deal with the problem that is Ngāti Onioni's problem. And so that there then puts the problem squarely upon them, which they've been tending to all of this time. I think that it takes away the generosity of their patience to wait this long for this issue to come in front of us. And while we might say, this does this, this does that, again, we're assuming a problem that's actually third person from us because we're not first person involved with the effects of what's happening up there in the nighttime activities. So I think we need to just consider that when we are considering what we believe are the solutions to it, because Ngāti Onioni is quite clear for them to have had this in the wait line to arrive to us, that this is a consistent problem for them that they've been having to treat. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you. Councillor Tupara.
Just like to add to some of the comments. I do support this paper, and I do so because I think we need to acknowledge the impact this has had on Ngāti Rununi, but also on our maunga. And when we are taking this, putting this notification out, that we discuss maunga, what they are and why they are, and the cultural significance of those places. And I think that touches on Councillor Gibson, Councillor Alder's comments, that part of us sorting this problem out is to understand culturally the importance of maunga in our district. And whilst this is to notify a closure for a time, maybe in a year or two, when we are all feeling a bit better in that, we understand what maunga are, the gates can come away. But in the meantime, we're doing very little. Naturally, would say that they're doing everything. And because of that, I support this initiative from them. But it doesn't mean that the maunga is completely locked out. Culturally, you can't lock a maunga anyway. That's the voice that we should be putting through as council. And we should talk about our awa in that way. We should talk about our moana in that way. That when we are talking about the taia, about the environment, we only exist because those things exist. And I think it's a manner of the articulation that council should bring. And I think that's missing a little bit in this report. The report is getting to the point, but there are many other layers that make te rāwhiti so much richer. And then at a time when we come back again and go, let's take the gates away, because we've learned how to connect ourselves back to taia and back to those tipuna places that are significant and really do define who we are.
I just want to make a comment with regards to this paper, and I'll come back to it. Just reminding everyone that what we're doing is really going out, endorsing the public notification of the proposal. So that means the public will get an opportunity to tell us what they think about this, and this will not be the last time we see this topic in our agenda papers. Is that correct? And whose hand? Oh, Councillor Ria.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I think the paper is great because it encourages larger conversations about waste dumping, and which Councillor Gibson has brought up. And I agree with what the reasoning that both Councillor Gibson states, and also with almost all of the reasoning around the table actually, for and against. I think that, like Councillor Foster, I also have a unique perception of illegal waste dumping on Titirangi Maunga, given that I have attended that marae since I was born. And so it's not just rubbish bags, the amount of waste, and it's always occurring. And so when I think from that, and I also have been in rooms with conversations with aunties and uncles and grandparents who have constantly, this conversation has constantly come up about the barrier arm that might stop people from dumping rubbish on our maunga. And also in consideration of the huge amount of resource that not only the council pours in, but also Ngāti Onione as a hapu pour in terms of whaia titirangi and the Maunga restoration project, planting and all of that. So there's a huge amount of resource that goes in. I suppose where I wanted just a little bit of clarity for my thinking was that how much does current waste collection, recovery, illegal dumping and vandalism call-outs cost the council per annum? What is our rough estimate? Like, we understand that it's going to cost 5K for the barrier arms, and then there'll be some maintenance attached to it. There'll also be people who will have to come and go, opening and closing. But I also know, because I walk all around the city, is that 6 o'clock is around about when the truck goes around. Like, for me, Titirangi would be on the path of the people who open the toilets, clean the toilets. Like, it's not an extra service that will have to be done in the morning hours. It would be for the nighttime hours, but not the morning hours. It could fall into a current work plan because workers are going all around the city to get public amenities open for the day. But that was something how much does it currently cost us, the council, per annum? In terms of that, I just wanted to weigh the costs, because that's probably a grey area for me. Like, what will it actually cost us for that to happen?
I can speak to that somewhat, Michelle, Debbie. So we have looked into that. We don't have specific data that relates solely to Titirangi, so we can't separate out the costs for Titirangi. But broadly, it costs us $500 a tonne to dispose of illegal dumping, and it costs us $50 an hour to have it picked up. Your point about there being existing contractors already doing work, you're quite correct. Recreational services, our contractors already do the rubbish bin run in the morning. They will pick up illegal dumping if they come across it as part of their morning run. If they are called out because of things that they hadn't anticipated, then there's a call out fee, and that's across the board, across all our parks and open spaces. So I guess what I'm saying is that this is not a problem, as Sam has alluded to, this is not a problem that is distinct to this place. This is a problem that we have across a number of our parks and urban spaces. It costs council a significant amount of money, but I can't isolate for you exactly what those costs are in relation to Titirangi.
Do we have a targeted decrease in the behaviour of waste dumping on Titirangi if an arm was installed?
Like an amount?
Yes,
Yeah,
we know that when cameras were installed in certain places, there was a 40%
down over the last 2 months since last year.
40% down. So do we have a targeted decrease in dumping of waste on the Maunga if we're to implement and put funds into strategies to mitigate illegal waste dumping?
May I have someone here who might be able to actually answer the question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Luke Knight, I'm project manager in the solid waste team, looking after the curbside expansion and operations and contracts. So I've got the paper after this as well. But just for a bit of context around that illegal dumping. So there's been a number of actions that we've taken, primarily focused on Mad Mile and the issue outside the waste management site itself. I haven't got May's data confirmed yet, but we had it's been around 100 tonnes a month across 2025. With some actions that we've taken this year, which has included installing our own cameras at the site, which have had some internal support from with our compliance team as well, and carrying out their enforcement actions, so initial letters, and then where we've got clear evidence of those people offending, we're able to send out enforcement notices. We have seen a reduction in that volume from 110 tonnes in January. We went down to 86 in March, and the indication I've got for May, because we've made some additional changes with the site management, is that we're probably under 20 tonnes. So we have seen that reduction by redirection, I suppose, and encouraging the correct behaviours. So a lot of that's been around dealing with, I guess, misinformation or a misunderstanding of where the waste can go and how it's to be disposed of. And we've really put a lot of energy into the contractors' behaviour on site, getting their staff to address and interact with customers as they come through and work on that. So we have seen a reduction as a result of those measures like cameras and enforcement. The question of physical barriers to stop people getting to those problem areas is a really big one, because you could end up seeing that relocated elsewhere. But unfortunately we don't get the breakdown of those specific sites. But it is something we've identified with our contractors that pick up from different sites, the illegal dumping, that we want to be able to figure out where the bulk of that is coming from, so that we can actually target in a more detailed way as well.
I guess the key message there also is that we have a number of initiatives underway with illegal dumping, but there are a number of other issues happening on Titirangi. So illegal dumping is just one part of that, which we are working on, but there are a number of other issues like vandalism and general behaviour over the Maunga at night, which is really significant. So that is one part of it, which we are working on.
Kia ora. I suppose just the last thing for me is that ko te maunga taku tipuna, the mountain is my ancestor. Every one of the maunga in our region are my ancestor, and in order to be a good kaitiaki, initiatives like this, I must be in support of. So it's not that it's specifically Titirangi, it's that if it was any maunga tipuna, then I would be in support of it, because any decisions we can make that will aid in the protection of our ancestors, of our tipuna, then I am supportive of. Kia ora.
People had a turn, but we're going to do a quick zip around this. I can see 3 hands that can have a very short second go. Councillor Tupara, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Gibson. And then we're going to go to a decision.
Very quickly, it's a bit of a divergence from our paper, but twice already I've heard the term mad mile being utilised for a particular part of our coast. I think that's really unfortunate that we're using language like that. The name of that place is called Puatutia, Kirikiri and Oneroa. And I think if we give respect back to the ancestral names of those sorts of places, then we develop a respect for those places. And when I was at high school, we used to go down there and race our cars. I raced motorbikes. I lost 3 friends from crashes on that stretch. So there are some real problems there, but I don't think it's helped if we're referring to our tipuna wāhi as places of madness.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tupara.
Just a question. I'm just wondering more about deterrence. Have we ever prosecuted someone for illegal dumping?
Yes, there have been prosecutions, yeah.
Continuous.
How many?
No, in the recent.
Yeah, I mean, they're continuous, so we are working hard. It is.
I personally have never heard of any, so I'm actually curious how many, because we've got 1,200 tonnes of illegal dumping. A single prosecution.
I mean, it is tricky to track down the person doing the illegal dumping and then to gather the evidence and to make a prosecution, I guess. But we are doing it and we are actively working towards it. I haven't got the data in front of me.
Can I ask for that offline off this meeting? Can I ask for the actual numbers over the last 3 years? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gibson.
I just want to thank Nick for his comment, and I acknowledge that, and I apologise for using that terminology. I didn't know the name for that space, so that's out of ignorance. So thank you, Nick, for bringing that to my attention. My question is, if we have methods that are working currently at reducing waste that don't require closures, maybe we look at that as something that also is a parallel solution that's pitched to the public or notified to the public. If we have those solutions in house and they are working and they are proven, and we don't have closure as a proven method for addressing this issue, maybe we pitch both.
We can do this first recommendation that has been moved and seconded, and if it doesn't work, we can certainly come back to you. Did you want to have a right of reply?
It's not uncommon to go up and I'm up there a lot of mornings, even with the torch before it gets light, especially in winter. But to see different rubbish and capsules that people use to get a high, and a whole lot of other antisocial stuff that you would see, and then the burnouts. It's so regularly to see the burnouts that are done. It's amazing that the tar seal has actually handled some of the rubber that you see on the road up there, and the graffiti on the gun replacement, and the vandalism that happens around that area. And like I said, I've seen vehicles over the edge that people have, they're obviously up there drinking, and they've got so out of control that they've forgotten where they're going, and they've driven straight over the edge. I mean, they're lucky that they haven't gone completely down onto the community below. It is not uncommon, and I've seen burnt out cars up there. There's a lot of stuff that happens at night. It would be probably a scary thing to see some of the activity that does happen if you had cameras up there.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Okay, so we have a recommendation that this committee public notification of the proposal to restrict vehicle access on Titirangi Drive, Queen's Drive overnight, as we've read in this report. All those in favour? Aye. Against? So 3 against. Thank you, that has passed. Our next paper is solid waste. Interesting one about solid waste contracts and what's coming up. And Luke is in just the right place to take this one on. And is there anything you want to
So, yeah, kia ora again. Just as an introduction myself, it's my first time at this table with elected members. Through the Solid Waste Steering Group. So my background is in waste management and property management in local authorities, and I've done some work with Pine Water, so previously at Warwick District Council doing similar work across the landfill, curbside services, parks and reserves, so that's my background around this, and I've been at council now for 6 months, focused primarily on this contract and operations work stream. This paper is really just to give a bit more background and context around the work that's going on in the background to develop those curbside services. So got the federal funding, which provides the capital to cover the purchase of the containers. The really crucial part beyond that is how we develop a service that's fit for our community, is sized appropriately to deliver their outcomes well. Some of those considerations detailed page 4 of the report, or page 35 of the agenda, which is point 11. So taking all the learnings, best practice, and what not to do in some cases from other councils around the country, what's worked, what hasn't worked, different solutions and innovation opportunities that we might be able to make use of now, and particularly looking at the way our community already interacts with and deals with waste and the expected changes, so looking at how we make sure we have consideration of multi-unit developments, new developments that are going on, so that we can address the waste streams coming out of those areas as well. There's opportunities there that we're looking at to expand some of these services. So whilst we're looking primarily at within Gisborne, within that current urban area, and it's our residential ratepayers, there is scope to expand that, particularly the food and organics waste service, to some of our commercial ratepayers to support their waste minimisation and diversion, which is all in line with our identified outcomes within the WMP. And again, part of that, whilst we've got the capital, is looking at how we are going to allow for the operational cost of an expanded service, whether that's including into the rates, pay as you throw, or a hybrid of those elements. So there's a balance to be struck there around if we're getting a free-for-all disposal, actually incentivising the right behaviour, and how we disincentivise or enforce the incorrect behaviour, as well as incorporating the communications, behaviour change, and what other, I guess, side projects or complementary work programs we can have that support the overall objectives, which is really about diverting that food and organics waste from our landfill waste stream. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions on that, and certainly it's one that will not be, this won't be the last time something comes to either this forum or council, and continue to provide updates through the steering group as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Luke. Do any questions, comments from Councillor Rea?
As a noting report, I'm happy to move.
Sure. Councillor Gibson? I'll second it. Is there anything anyone know? So, just noting this report, it's been moved by Councillor Rea, it's been seconded by Councillor Gibson. All in favour? Aye. Against? Passed. Thank you. That was an easy one.
That was good. Track down that illegal dumping information. Well, thank you to Chris just to help me out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is we're talking about the Turanga Gardens, and Capital Projects Program Manager Natalie Waihi is just coming up to talk to us about this. And just in reading this report, I remember Ray Gowland, who was with the Lions when they first started working on that garden there, and he worked with people for more than 20 years on building up that garden that sadly has been now isn't a bit has a few problems, as we've read in here. So I just wanted to acknowledge Ray, and also he got a Civic Award in 2024 for his efforts in that garden as well. So from there I'll hand over to Natalie and introduce our report.
Acknowledgement of Ray, definitely a really important community member in the Turanga Garden space. Everyone, thank you for having me this morning. I will take the paper as read, information paper in relation to Turanga Gardens. The purpose of the report was to update elected members and council on the significant site investigations that have continued. There's a lot of background, a lot of history in the paper, and there's a lot of work still to go. So really, as we are indicating, there is quite a significant next stage of exploration work to do for Turanga Gardens. It's multifaceted in the fact that we are dealing with a landfill site, we're dealing with exposed contaminants, we have stormwater issues in the reserve, and we're also obviously looking at how it can be safely used for public recreation in the future. So it is multifaceted, and it is going to require a follow-up paper. I'm hoping that will be to you within the next 2 to 3 months, with some really structured options around what it will mean for council. Very likely they will be short to medium term and longer term options. And one of the key requirements at the moment will be that Turanga Garden remains closed until there are serious decisions made around its future. Due to the level of contaminants, the public health and safety risk is paramount, and it's impossible for us to ignore that, I would say. The closure of the reserve has also meant that the reduced maintenance has impacted or has had impact on tracks, and so the ground and the way that people move through the reserve is quite different to what it was prior to the cyclone. So there's also other risks, fall trips, trees and other things that we're considering. So further information to come. Take any questions or hear from anyone who has any information.
With the next paper that you come through, will there be some options of what it could be used for, like just a trail through it, or because unfortunately what's happened, particularly through the effect of Gabriel, is that it's exposed it into it almost being no-go zone, and so council being liable for any damage that people might make or do to themselves or get from that contaminated site as well is quite big. Are we better to be just walking away? Unfortunately, when there's been so much work gone into it in the past, but it's just the nature of what we're having to deal with at the moment with with all the effects of climate change, and we know that that's going to continue. It's not going to go away. So it'd be interesting, the next paper that you do bring to us with those options of what the site could be utilised for, or
Thank you for your comment, and through the chair, just to confirm that absolutely will be options, and one of them will likely be a more not do nothing, but perhaps secure it from public access for a further longer term until such time council can invest or seek external funding to remediate the site. So you're right, and one of the pieces of work we are doing at the moment is really working hard to determine what is considered reasonable investment from council to manage the associated risks with the site. I don't have an answer to that today. It's an active inquiry. I'm speaking with the legal team and really looking at other cases and precedents that have happened through courts and through penalties around obligations for council. We are a PCBU for workers in the site. Public health and safety sits in there somewhat, but is quite different, I guess, in approach. So to that point, I am exploring making sure we have suitable isolation in place and suitable signage, so that it would be considered reasonable for the public to understand the risks if they choose to enter the reserve. It's fair to say there is still some access going on from what we can see within the reserve, but there is currently reasonable isolations and signage in place.
Thank you, Councillor
Alder. Between now and the next presentation, could there be an opportunity for councillors to have a walkthrough, a guided walkthrough?
There may be some areas which we could allow access with suitable PPE and controls in place. However, I would not be recommending access to particularly the high-risk areas which are identified in the maps within the report. The public health and safety advice is to remain away from those areas with high-risk contaminants. It is likely we could enter in through the Diana Avenue entrance and have a very early stage look at the reserve, but even to take you through some of those areas, it's quite gnarly ground, shall we say. So there are other risks, not just the contaminants, that we would need to consider carefully. If that was something that council wished to do to be able to progress options and have a bit of an understanding, we could do so under suitable controls, having suitably qualified environmental specialists and asbestos controls in place, just to make sure that we're meeting the terms of the asbestos management plan.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame we found this. Historically, all our pipes, most of the fences and most of the house roofs were asbestos, so it's actually everywhere. I think you'll find nearly every grass verge in front of your property, when the pipes were replaced, it's just broken up and buried, so you're not actually aware of it till you do excavation. It's like up Toko, the rugby fields were used for years before there's actually any discovery of the asbestos, and it's only when asbestos is airborne as dust that it gets in your lungs, and it's actually, when it's wet and in the ground, it's actually safe. So yeah, it's just a shame. Pretty much if you're building and you find it, your building site's ruined. Where you could have a garden there for 10 years. As soon as you discover it when you're about to build, your property's pretty much useless. So it's just a shame.
Councillor Ria.
Thank you, Councillor Gregory. I'd like to note the ongoing closure of the Turanga Gardens Reserve and move the paper.
Sure. Is someone to second this? So, by Councillor Rea, seconded by Councillor Burrow. All in favour? Aye. Against? No. Carried. That's the word. Thank you. And now we've got the most exciting paper.
I thought Turanga was going to.
With Natalie as well, and there's always a good discussion around wharipakus. So I'll hand you the baton again and let's go.
So the following paper, purpose of the report, again, it is an information paper. Purpose of the report is to update elected members and council on progression of our convenience network plan. So this plan has been developed over the past, actually, 5 to 6 years. It's been since 2018 and progressively updated and reviewed. So at the moment we currently have a 2024 version. And through that plan, the network seeks to identify ways that we can optimise performance, maintain our levels of service while reducing our operational costs, most importantly, and ensuring that our facilities are fit for purpose and accessible where possible. So the purpose of this paper is to update on 3 key pieces of work that are moving through the network plan. Two are feasibility pieces of work, primarily around Matawai. Matawai toilet, I'm sure you're all familiar with how small a footprint it is, but what a hot stop it is. Anyone coming in or out of our region, and if you've been past through R&V time, you'll see a queue up and around the playground and everywhere else. So we are aware that is a significant, there's a significant demand on that facility, and we are really keen to explore how we can improve the level of service and reduce some of those costs. It is one of our facilities that is emptied quite frequently due to some constriction in the septic system, so it's a holding tank. We are limited in this site by the footprint, which is explained in the paper, and so our next step is to really do work on the current footprint, the lease scenarios that facilitate around it, and any other land that may be viable in the area to provide for future public facility development in Matawai. One of the other pieces of work mentioned there is network planning and wanting to engage with our community on our facilities from Wainui to Turihoa. So many of you will be very and intimately familiar with these facilities which run across our coastal stretch, and it is one of the most dense sections by kilometres for number of facilities. They are ageing, they have some significant operational challenges, particularly the likes of Turihoa. We're aware of the erosion and other issues going on there, and so our team is working very hard to look at a consolidation process through there, but most importantly, as has been noted several times this morning, we want the community to be on board with that. We need to hear advice from our community on how those facilities are used and who uses them and where. We haven't got strong data, so the engaging with community and asking those who use it is really important. So that's something we'd like to move forward fairly quickly. And the third piece of work in the paper relates to the Tupuia Springs toilet. I know this one has triggered some interest, and I may have seen some social media discussion around it. Really interesting with Tupuia, it really was a historic, shall we say, handshake agreement, where the landowner of the resident and the shop provided council ability to install it or maintain the septic system and connect our facilities to that. The challenge we have is that's a holding tank. It's not a septic system. It doesn't have a field to manage all of the effluent. It's a holding tank. And that holding tank is receiving not only the septic and the water from our public toilets, but also from the shop and from the residents. So as you can imagine, the reason it's needing to be cleaned out twice a week is because that's got nowhere to go and it's just filling up into this holding tank. So yes, the levels of service are pretty high up there. We're pretty sure that it's being used really well, but it's actually further complicated by the nature of the infrastructure. We have been engaging really well with the shop owner in this instance, who is supportive of council retaining our toilet in that location and would like to explore and progress conversations with council around new infrastructure in that land parcel. However, as mentioned in the paper, we have also identified a potentially suitable alternative location near the GDC Te Springs office. This site brings a lot of opportunity in the future and seems to be really well received by the community. There are some plans that they have for civil defence and response, and so it seems hand in hand that public facilities could be suitable in that location as well. So in short, they're the three pieces of work we're working through in the next 6 to 12 months for the public convenience. We do intend to move Te Springs forward as a priority, and so as the paper indicates, we will be looking for the most cost-effective and operationally effective solution out of those two mentioned, and we will look progress those once we have completed further feasibility and some more consultation with the community. Anyone has any questions?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for this paper? Another well-written paper. Councillor Telfer.
I'll move the paper.
You'll move the paper.
I'll second the paper. I was confused. We let the Matawai Hall area to the hall, and then they sublet the piece where the toilet is back to us.
Yes, and it's quite complex, the lease arrangement, and it's quite dated. So we do need to do some work to see whether that's a feasible solution going forward or whether that can even be adjusted and what that looks like. Yes.
I really love the suggestion about Te Puia, and also I think we really need to have a look at priority 3 as a group of councillors and talk about what that might mean for our coastal community in terms of their public access to toilets. But otherwise, I'm happy to second the paper. Kia ora.
So, are there any more questions? No. So this paper has been moved. It's a note in paper moved by Rob Telfer, seconded by Councillor Ria. Sorry, Councillor Telfer. All in favour? Against? Carried. And also, do we have an answer to a question from an earlier paper, which we're quickly going to give Councillor Thompson?
So just in terms of infringements, we've issued 75 infringements in the 26 financial year, and that's up from 28 in the 25 financial year due to effectively the reduction plan initiatives that we've got underway.
Thank you.
On that, Michelle, issued infringements, what have been the outcomes from those infringements? I guess how many prosecutions has there been? I think it's fine issuing infringements, but if there is, are we dealing with it hard enough to be able to deter that behaviour? That's the big.
I mean, we're going as hard as we can with the resources available, would be my answer to that. So, and they are incredibly tricky ones to enforce. Obviously, the fines are reasonably set, so we're not able to issue very significant fines, and the effort that goes into catching the perpetrator and then chasing them up, it's all significant time and resource. So, but I can. I'll talk to the team about how we can bring that back, possibly through another contract update.
Thank you for that. So now we're moving on to our New Zealand Silver Fern Rally paper.
Kia ora anō, it's another making paper, so I've got Jade online who's the author of the paper, but basically it's councillors and community heads up in terms of an application received from the Ottawa group for road closure to run the Silver Fern Rally. So that's in November of this year. So it's an opportunity for councillors to give feedback now. We're about to engage with the community. I've got Tim online too.
Thank you. Is it just, I've just got a quick question, the community engagement, is that something they do or we do?
It's something they do, but we will support them and make sure that the plan is robust in terms of what they do engage on and how they engage.
Thank you. Is there any questions from councillors?
I'm happy to move the report actually. It's and the great benefits. We used to have these rallies through regularly each year actually, and they brought a a lot of people with them, you know, who all need accommodation, they need food, and they, a lot of them would never come to the region other than that. And they see what a beautiful region we've got.
They provide a very good vibe too. When they provide a really good vibe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor.
People like myself,
Councillor.
so yeah, I'm happy to move this paper because I know it's coming back to us again for final approval.
Yeah, it's just
after
on
consultation.
a few things at this point. Councillor Alder.
I'm happy to second it. The damage to our roads is upmost in my mind, and that we must have a firm contract with them that the road is put back. It's so better than it was before. Perhaps we can get some road improvement out of them.
There's a bond in here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Might be a good thing for Paracanet Road because
Would you,
shocking.
Yeah.
Councillor Taufa, did you want to say something? Oh, sorry, I just thought
I'm unnecessarily I talk with both of these people.
Nice. This paper has been moved by Councillor Foster. All the noting things, there's 5 of them. I'm sure everybody's read them. I don't need to read them out. And it has been seconded by Councillor Alder. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. And then we've just got one to go. One paper left. Steaming ahead. And this is Joss is coming up for our environment, for land, rivers and coastal paper. Finish off, round out this meeting.
Yeah, morena tātou. Yeah, this report was written by Maunga.
Oh, sorry, but you're going to answer all our hard questions.
Yep.
So are we taking it as read?
Yeah, please take it as read.
And
look at other
any
questions.
councillors have any questions or comments?
I'm happy to move and make the comment that it is great to see progress on the TRI weed control. And what is going to be learnt on the TRI can be used in other rivers. Hopefully the consent is expanded. So we had, I'd also like to comment on drainage in the region. We had an example of that this morning. Am I allowed to mention that to you? Well, I already did, so I won't go any further than that. But that drainage is a real issue out there, and the importance of it just cannot go unregistered. If you're farming a rooted crop that goes deep, you have to have good drainage. It is our biggest local asset, productive flats, and drainage, good drainage has to go with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Alder. On page 74 of this agenda, point 8, I was just, a point that really stuck out to me was the required budget to manage drains effectively as proposed in the long-term plan. Targeted rates seem to be increased by 300%. And that's the position we're in, sadly. And we can do anything if we can get the putia to do it. It's not through lack of wanting to or trying to. Yes.
If I can respond to that through the chair. Yeah, I did question that myself this morning, just to clarify that. So there is a rate for direct beneficiaries of $30 per hectare. So that's anything from $3 up per year, depending on the size and the sort of benefits area. That cost covers spraying, regrades, repairs and maintenance, inspections, vegetation management and RFSs. I don't have the breakdown as to just the regrades with regards to that, but the rates or the targeted rates that we do receive from the public do need to be increased, and we're advocating for that through the LTP. We need to deliver more. Community meetings have indicated strongly that they want more and are happy to pay more as well. I'm unsure how that sits from a rates capping perspective that is coming next financial year ongoing. If the community want more, potentially that's an exempt. I'm sure some clarification is required as to if that's okay or not.
Any other questions for this paper? Would somebody like to second? Councillor Telfer. So it has been moved, it's a noting paper, it's been moved by Councillor Order, seconded by Councillor Telfer. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And that, with that, we will close our meeting today. Thank you very much.